And going back to our overall product management process that we've looked at a number of times. We started at the customer development, understanding the user and the problem. We developed an MVP to solve for the solution. We figured out how to go ahead and develop the product, working with a team to do that internally. How do you go to market with the product? And how do you look at the other components of the product? So the business aspect of it, and addressing risk. And with that, we have gone through the entire product management process. And what we want to do now is understand the skills that are required to be a good product manager. So first step in doing that is focusing on agile principles. Product development methodologies. So there are, in large part, four big product development methodologies that exist: waterfall, agile, hybrid, and lean. Anyone that has experience in one or many of these? Philip, I know you've been an engineer.
Yeah. So our company started off waterfall, and then we moved later on to agile.
Yeah. Cool. And I'm actually curious about how that overall transition went, and if you guys were truly agile.
Yeah. I think like as far as it took some time changing our methodology just as a company, just because we were sort of accustomed to doing things a certain way. But I think with agile there's a lot of different sort of processes and just changes that we've made along the way as far as tools and how we manage Scrum and so on and so forth. So
yeah,
got awesome. Better as we went along. Yeah.
Cool. So we'll go over each of these just to make sure that everyone has a bit of a level set on this. I can speed through some of these things if all of you are familiar with it. Just let me know about that. So Unit 6, the speed was okay for everyone? Too fast, too slow?
It's good.
Cool. All right, so product development methodologies. Four of them that we'll kind of give a brief overview over. First, we'll start with waterfall, which ends up being a sequential activity. Then we'll go over agile, which is an iterative activity. Hybrid is a combination of waterfall and agile, ends up being sequential upfront and then iterative afterwards. And then lean, which is a lot more focused on building out an MVP and doing product market fit rather than a later product development. So we'll go over each of these one by one. So in waterfall, effectively, requirements are gathered upfront. And then based off of a particular product that's being built, you get engineering and visual design that is created after that. Then there's, the engineering design and the visual design is created after that. And then you go ahead with development, and then you go ahead with testing, and then you go ahead with launch. So this is the sequential steps that I was talking about. First is the requirements, then you do the engineering design, then the visual design, then development, and then test. So lots of, different thoughts around this. First one is that many organizations right now still follow waterfall methodology. And I think arguments can be weighed either way. It could work for some, it does not work for others. But generally speaking, it is valuable only when you know exactly what needs to be built. Whatever it is that is going to be built, you want to make sure that that itself is going to be valuable for the customers. When there is a certain amount of uncertainty on what should be built or whether the customer actually values it, this could be a very risky approach. Customers tend to change what they want and how they're going to experience things quite often. So generally speaking, this is considered to be a more risky methodology. But if you are building something that is that has been, say, in market for a while, and you are doing an update to particular software, and you know the requirements around that is not changing, then waterfall can work for that team and that company. And generally speaking, right now, in the industry, the term waterfall development is almost looked down on. It's frowned upon, and everyone is trying to be agile, even if it's as lip service. They want to call themselves agile rather than actually doing agile things. So the way I generally like to approach it and say it is that if a team is working in a waterfall way and it's working for them, then may as well call yourselves waterfall and acknowledge it, rather than trying to put on the disguise of agile, because that is not necessarily like owning up to what you're actually doing. I think in general, for broad majority of the companies and product teams, this is probably not the way to go because customer requirements are changing constantly, but it can work for some. Next one, term that everyone's been hearing about quite a lot, agile. It is when customer development and product development all happen in small steps, small iterative steps, in parallel. So effectively, it happens that you do customer discovery. What you learn, you go build out really quickly and then test it out and then deploy it. And then based off of that learning, you go and create customer understanding, problem understanding, solution development again. And then you develop that, build that, launch that, and then get feedback once again. So it ends up being a lot more cyclic, whereas waterfall is a lot more of a step-by-step process. So the cycle is very, very important. Generally, you want to try to reduce the cycle to 2 weeks, 4 weeks, max 8 weeks. Generally in waterfall, the releases tend to be 3, 6, 9, or even 12 months. So just think about it from that perspective. If as a product manager, you are getting feedback on your product 12 months later, it changes a lot in that 1 year time. So that's why if you are able to get more feedback more quickly in an iterative manner every 2 to 4 weeks, the better that's going to be in how you develop products and how your company operates and serving the customers. Generally, the agile methodology is the least risky approach because you are getting feedback constantly from customers. Then there is the hybrid methodology, where you do customer development and problem understanding upfront in one step, and then the development, testing, and release cycle is done on an iterative basis, on a cyclic basis. So once again, this is valuable when customer development has been done accurately and you really understand the customer problems. But there is, and what you're trying to do is avoid the risk in product delivery. So actually, the risk is in product discovery rather than product delivery. And then there's lean. So this graphic is, or should be familiar for everyone here. We've seen it in our MVP unit. It is used to validate assumptions really quickly for what the customer understanding is and how you want to be solving problems. The focus of this is to achieve problem solution fit and then a product market fit. Similar to Agile in how you operate and the mindset that you have, but it does happen to be at an earlier product development stage rather than a later product development stage. So for example, if there's no product in the market, you would probably use the lean approach and the MVP approach. When you have an existing product and you're improving on that, you would use the Agile approach. Any questions on these four methodologies?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So do you know of any company that's still following the waterfall?
Yeah, great question. Personally, I think I've been in the startup product management for a while now. So companies that I generally interact with, not as much. But some of my friends, actually, a couple of our customers, which happen to be large established enterprise companies, Fortune 500, their development process is still waterfall. So they do have the 6-month release cycles or 1-year release cycles, and the product that we provide to them, it needs to be aligned to their release cycles. So kind of annoying to work with it from our standpoint, since we're effectively doing like a 6-month planning process with them.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So obviously, out of the 4, ideally, what you want to do is be in an agile environment and a lean environment.